Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Forever Patriots special edition. We are reacting to one of the most boring conventions of the United States, the Democratic National Convention 2020. And here to react, we have Caleb Lawson from Florida. How are you doing, Caleb?
Doing great, thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And then next we have Carlos Turcios of Texas. How are you doing, Carlos?
I'm doing good. And you?
I am doing awesome. And then we have Joseph Silverstein of New York, correct?
That's right. What's up, Anthony? Thanks for having me
Great
here.
to be with you, Joseph. All right. So, like I said, most boring convention ever. What did you guys think of it initially? Carlos, we'll start with you.
So, I didn't watch most of the convention. I did watch Michelle Obama and Bernie and AOC and, of course, Biden's. But my reaction is basically that it was so they were so anti-Trump, and it's literally just about Trump, basically the whole convention. And I realized that they really want they were pandering voters. Like Chris Coons was talking about Biden as a man of faith. And they were talking about faith. They were talking about how he's moderate, how he's for African Americans, for Hispanics, for all these communities. And what they're trying to replicate is basically the 2008 coalition that Obama created. And they think that Biden can replicate that for 2020 because they're just going to use the pandemic. They're going to use the unemployment rate, the death rate. They use the statistics that 1,000 Americans die every single day, so by default this is Trump's fault, and they're going to use everything that's happening right now against him. And it was really negative. I mean, the last day was basically they were trying to be more positive because Biden wants all Americans, and if you saw that, he wanted to say, oh, no, I'm not going to be a Democratic candidate. I'm going to be an American candidate. And he's trying to get those moderate and swing voters. And I'll tell you this. I have done 2,000 houses here in Texas for the Trump campaign. And I can tell you that it's going to be a very tight race. Very tight race. Because the moderates and even some of the independent voters, we do have a good sizable chunk. Biden. He's smart. I'll admit that the Biden campaign is smart for what they're doing, but frankly, it was a boring convention and also kind of a scary convention because although it was boring for us, there's a lot of moderates. I'm just letting you know, and they're trying to get those moderates. So,
right, yeah, the way I looked at it was that they tried to play it to where they sound so patriotic. I mean, even some of their little videos that they were playing, like doing the Pledge of Allegiance and the Star Spangled Banner, showing about how patriotic they are, and really, it's just nuts. Caleb, your reaction to the most boring convention ever?
My initial reaction was definitely that the entire thing was a giant orange man bad infomercial. That's what it seemed like. It seemed like an infomercial. I mean, you're watching this and there is Donald. He is orange man bad the entire time. They're not talking about Joe Biden. It's not about Joe Biden. Joe Biden's not even really a person. Kamala Harris isn't really a person. It's really Donald Trump versus the establishment, just versus the Democrats. And they're not really talking about Joe Biden because they know he's not a great candidate. They're talking about Trump and putting all the focus on him. Orange man bad. That's their whole case. That's the entire thing. And frankly, I thought it was insane. I thought it was a clown show. It really, like you said, it was boring. They're trying to cover it up with all this fake patriotism. It's not real. They don't really love this country. I mean, even the governor of New York, he was talking about it. And he was saying that America is the greatest country on earth. We don't know. We all know he doesn't really believe that. Look a little bit before when he was talking in response to President Donald Trump's slogan, "Make America Great Again." You know what he said? He said America was never even that great. He was saying it was never even that great. It is fake. All of it is fake. They don't really love this country. It is just to cover up not only the burning of the American flag, but the burning of this country. The riots, they're burning down the entire country, and they're trying to cover it up with this fake, I love my country, this is a great country. It's fake. They don't really love it. It is all fake. But, you know, clearly, I mean, I watched a lot of it, and most of it, it was a clown show. I think we can all agree.
I mean, you talk about America burning down. The one place that you can look at right now, democratically run, Portland, Oregon. You know, that city's just burning to the ground. And, you know, one of the things that I did want to say was that, of course, it's an infomercial for Orange Man Bad. You can basically just say that the Democratic Party platform for 2020, one, hate Donald Trump, the end. Joseph, your reaction to the most boring convention ever?
Well, I definitely would say it was boring. It felt like an infomercial. It didn't feel natural without the audience. So that was the first problem. It was also the height of hypocrisy, quite frankly. If you look at it, Bill Clinton is telling Donald Trump how to conduct himself in the Oval Office and about how safer the office is. And I think we all understand just the irony in that. We don't have to go much further and talk about Monica Lewinsky and others and other interns that he took advantage of. So that's Bill Clinton. Next, you have Governor Cuomo talking about the appropriate response to the coronavirus pandemic when his response was a total disaster. The only reason the numbers are low here now is because it's run through the entire population. But he signed an executive order sending sick patients into the nursing homes, and he has blood on his hands. Those deaths are on his hands because of his poor leadership. That's a very tangible thing. People blame Trump and they say, oh, Trump did this, Trump did that, but they can't say what they would have done differently. With Cuomo, this is a very specific thing. He signed an executive order mandating that the nursing homes take in COVID patients, and as a result, many people died. And then thirdly, President Obama talked about abusing the powers of office. He used the IRS to target conservatives and conservative organizations. It was hypocrisy at its finest, and it was ineffective. Now, I this in terms of the versus Democrat playing field that it normally is every 4 years. This is versus the radical left, the AOCs, the Bernie Sanders, because Joe Biden, aside from his lacking his cognitive ability, just the party has changed. The party has shifted. If you look at the actual platform and the unity plan with Bernie, this is socialism. This is worse than socialism. This is, in some cases, just flat out neo-Marxism and communism.
Yeah, you are right about that. And I mean, just the way that they were addressing some of the issues. First of all, somebody pointed this out to me today. You look at what all they talked about. They talked about climate change. They talked about racial issues. Did you ever hear them talking about working class issues like jobs in the economy or about working relations? Anything like that? I mean, you hardly heard that. It was all about race and climate change, basically.
That's right. And the economy, keep in mind, is still one of the number one issues, if not the number one issue. In many cases, in many polls, it is the number one issue. So it's very interesting that they didn't learn any lessons from 2016.
Neither did they mention the violence in the cities right now, which are mostly democratically run. So they're not going to admit that in the first place.
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. One of the reasons is because they actually support it. I mean, you look at President Obama, he cheered on the young people in the streets. Now, he didn't talk about the young people who are slamming people's heads into fire hydrants and beating up old women. He didn't talk about the people who were trying to bomb a courthouse, a federal courthouse building. He didn't talk about the shootings that are up 400% in New York City and double and triple in other cities. But he supports the radical left. He supports what they stand for. We knew this throughout his whole presidency. He couldn't be as overt about it as he is now. He used to be covert, but now that it seems this is a growing movement in the country, he's revealing his true colors.
That's right. Now, Caleb, you probably didn't hear anything about these rising violence in any of these cities, did you?
I did. It's all over the place. I mean, even in Florida. I mean, even in near me in Florida, there's riots happening all over the place, and it's really hurting. And not in my town, but in some of the Democratic-run areas in Florida, it is so bad. It is so bad with these riots. They are hurting people. They're not even just hurting people, but they're killing people, breaking down all of these buildings, breaking down these statues, burning down businesses, flipping cars. And like you guys were saying earlier, the Democrats support it. The Democrats support it, and that's why they didn't talk about it. You know, like you said, Anthony, you were saying that they're only talking about race. They're talking about COVID. They're only talking about these few things, climate change. They're not talking about the riots. You know, they call them peaceful protests. These aren't peaceful. These are not peaceful. When people are dying, that does not mean it is a peaceful protest. And they need to talk about it. They need to start talking about it because it is happening all over the place and they need to end. They need to stop. And President Trump's the one to do it. He's the law and order candidate. He's always has been. And he's going to be the one to not only stop the riots, but to bring our economy back. And like you were saying, the people need to talk about the economy. It's an important issue. The American people want a strong economy. And Trump is the one who's going to bring that economy back. We saw him build a great economy, the greatest economy that America has ever had. He can do it again. Believe me.
Oh, yeah, he can. I mean, we're already getting positive job numbers, it sounds like. Carlos, you know, talking about these violent rising crimes in many of these democratic cities across the United States, I mean, it's got to make you wonder just how much worse it's going to get if Donald Trump wins re-election.
Well, if we look at history, before the Civil War, the country had tensions in the 1850s. We had Bleeding Kansas of 1854. We had Hartford Ferry of 1859. And we also had another period, which was the 1960s. We had the 1968 riots. We had the MLK assassination. We had all these events. And right now we're experiencing a third wave in the country, which is basically riots, death, looting, the wanting to destroy America's heritage, America's statues. Although this one has gotten a little bit worse because it has spread to almost every single major city in the country. Compared to the past, like the 1968 riots, it was mostly in Washington, D.C. and maybe New York, but that's about it. Today, it's literally in every single major city. And if the president wins, and I hope and I think he will win, they're gonna plot something against him. I'm just letting you know, something's gonna happen. They're gonna get insane. Their looting's gonna increase significantly. Riots is going to increase. Literally the day after, I can guarantee you, they are going to be burning down cars, burning down houses. People are gonna die just because he wins. And typically, a nation that experiences such horrible division within its country cannot last for a very long time. So America's experiencing some dark times. And if we look at history, we are doomed to repeat history. And we need to correct that before it's too late. So,
and honestly, you see on these universities and campuses where they're suppressing freedom of speech and they're indoctrinating students. I mean, Joseph, you're with Campus Reform. How much have you seen this?
Oh, it's all over the country. And so I just did a story recently. I was on the Joe Pack show and we talked about an Iowa State University English professor. And in her syllabus, she said you would be expelled from the classroom if you were to criticize Black Lives Matter or to criticize LGBTQ issues. So there's certainly a suppression of freedom of speech. This isn't a result. This is a direct result of the movement. This isn't by accident. This is the goal of the movement, is to silence freedom of speech. So it's definitely troubling. Just wear a Make America Great Again hat on a college campus and see what happens. Carry an American flag through one of these Portland rallies. You may lose your life. You'll certainly be attacked. It's something that's very troublesome. Also, to touch on briefly what Carlos said, I agree that there's a risk certainly in the fact that if President Trump gets reelected, I think we'll see a stirring up of civil unrest again in the country. I think that we'll see more riots, but this is sort of the quiet promise of the Democratic Party. Vote for us and this will end. We'll do just enough to make everyone happy. The reason for the riots is Donald Trump and his rhetoric. In reality, the reason for the riots is the ideology that people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have embraced their entire careers, and more specifically because they're wishy-washy. They believe it, but they'll kind of just say whatever they think they need to say. But really, the garbage like Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and many others have been promoting And in addition, of course, like you mentioned, Anthony, the universities, it's just a cesspool of the universities they've become. And one of the results of the coronavirus pandemic, hopefully, and it's controversial to say it, and a lot of people tell me, oh, you shouldn't say it because it's too controversial, but I'll say it. There's a lot of lower tier universities that may go under because of this. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Capitalism is the creative destruction. And you know what? People, as it is, the statistics show us, are fleeing the humanities because the humanities have become a cesspool for indoctrination and cultural Marxism.
Yeah, that's right. Now, one of the things that we saw early on in the convention, a Republican speaking, John Kasich. Is he a Republican, Carlos?
He is a moderate Republican. Reminders that he won back in 2010 for Ohio. He was the governor for 2 terms. And reminders that we still have moderates in the Republican Party. I've talked with a lot of moderates who are voting for the Senate, who are voting for the House elections, but they're not voting for the president because of Twitter. So he is still a Republican, although he's not a great Republican, in my opinion. Although he's not conservative. So there's a huge difference right there. You can be a Republican and probably be a moderate or centrist, but that does not mean you're a conservative. And I think there needs to be a distinction right there. You can be a Republican, but not a conservative. And I think being a conservative is a greater value than just being a Republican. So, yeah, he is a Republican, but he's just not a conservative. So, frankly, his video appearance wasn't that much of a value for me. So
neither was I. Caleb, your thoughts?
Not even just with John, but Republican Joe Biden. They try to make it seem like, oh, look at this. We have Republicans on our side. Even Joe Biden has Republicans on his side. No, he does not. Look at the approval rating for President Trump within the Republican Party. 96% approval for President Trump within the Republican Party. That is more popular than Ronald Reagan, than Abraham Lincoln. That's incredible. When you think about it, that is incredible. The Republican Party backs President Trump so much. And when you look at that, and then you see these few squishy Republicans, they're Republican. They say they're Republican. But a lot of these people, they say, oh, I'm a lifelong Republican. I'm a lifelong Republican. Well, you know what these people support? Some of the people who endorsed Joe Biden, who said they were lifelong Republicans. One of the people up there supported open borders. Another, abortion. These aren't strong conservative Republicans. These are squishy Republicans, practically rhinos, Republicans in name only. Really, he does not have the Republican support. He does not have even the moderate support. In my opinion, he's really only getting a small portion of the Democrats. And a lot of people in the middle just go, I hate Trump. So, I don't know. You got Joe Biden, you got Donald Trump. I hate Donald Trump. That's what they're saying. No one really supports him. No one really supports Joe Biden. He doesn't have the support. He doesn't have the love like President Trump has.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you to some extent there. Joseph, I'll give you a short time to react. What did you think that John Kasich's appearance was a bit of a betrayal to the Republican Party?
I would definitely say it was a mistake. In terms of betrayal, yeah, a little bit. I would say it's a betrayal to go against the sitting Republican president at this time. That's certainly something that he shouldn't do. I supported Trump in the primaries in 2016. I'm happy to be a Trump supporter and very conservative. We do have to keep in mind that post-Trump era, we are going to have to try to bring people like Kasich back into the fold. But to Caleb's point, there is no statistical evidence whatsoever that Joe Biden has any strong support among Republicans. The president's approval rating is 92%. And the last thing I would note on this is that many of the Republicans, sort of the Mitt Romney types, and I'm not talking about the voters because there are some, I would say, legitimate concerns about Twitter and things like that, although some of it I find amusing and some of it I find to be beneficial. Others I see the concerns, but it's certainly not a reason to turn around and vote for Joe Biden. And a lot of the Republicans that do, like Mitt Romney, for example, he marched with BLM. I don't think they have an understanding of the ideological underpinnings of this campaign and of this movement, quite frankly, because BLM is a self-proclaimed, I hate to have to keep going back to it, Marxist organization. And you have someone who's worth $250 million in Mitt Romney, who, quite frankly, must not have the intelligence or the intellect to figure out these people hate his guts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you are so right. Now, one of the things I've been seeing is, abortion, abortion, abortion. You see some of these candidates talking about the children and the grandchildren, the future for our kids and stuff. And you talk about all those immigrant children that they're constantly talking about having DACA for and all that. Do they really care about children when they support abortion, for crying out loud? Anybody's
They
reaction?
don't. I mean, they don't support children. It's all. Look, when the Democrats talk about, oh, they support children, they support immigrants, they support all of these communities, it's all nothing but. They always mention we're here to help the common people. Today I had a cleanup uh, at Eastside Fort Worth, which is basically the poorest area, the ghetto side of basically any city, and it's been voting Democrat for 60 straight years, and it's still the same. So whenever they say, "Oh, we're for the children," no, because you support, late-term abortions, and they glorify abortion, which is in the past, like 20 years ago, the Democratic Party would basically say, "Well, we do support abortion, but it has to be restricted, and we don't fully encourage it. We encourage you not to really have abortion." Today, it's like, no, abortion it's needed in life.
Yeah.
So they have shifted so far left that eventually they're going to be glorifying, basically killing already born babies, basically. Like they're 2 days old, and they're saying, "Oh no, that's it can't feel anything." They're going to reach to that stage eventually. And when it comes to immigrants, they hijack the message with the Hispanic community. So what they do is they basically say, "Hey, we have sympathy for your relatives." And there's a huge problem within the Hispanic community is that since there are relatives who are illegals, I even have relatives who are here illegally. That emotional connection is so powerful that although they may have a conservative lifestyle, they will still vote Democrat because I don't want my grandfather to be deported. So the Democrats are like, we got to keep pushing this immigration BS. And that's the only way we'll get them. But in reality, that's the only thing they do. It's for power, is to make sure they keep on voting Democratic, and that's pretty much it. No progress, no change, nothing.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the things that we did here was that an illegal immigrant who was at the Democratic convention via virtual participation was saying, "Healthcare, I deserve healthcare in America even though I'm an illegal." No, you don't. You have to be a legal citizen if you want healthcare.
Yeah, I mean it's just completely absurd. And actually, that illegal immigrant was deported under Bill Clinton. And she was demanding that she has the right to come to this country to have free health care. First of all, you were already deported. Bye-bye. You're not coming back here, and you're not entitled to anything. You were not even born in this country, and you were deported decades ago. But the scary part is, Jill Biden actually had an interview, and she was basically saying that, yeah, we're gonna make sure they come back, all immigrants. And my mother, she saw the video, and she was like, "They're what? They're literally saying that they're gonna bring back all the deported people." And it was like the fact that they're even saying that really shows that Biden's gonna do anything to win votes or to win the progressive votes, which, in my opinion, the progressive votes, well, the voters, they're going to be voting Green Party. We're going to have 2016 again because they didn't learn the lesson, of course. And a huge chunk, of course, a good chunk, is going to be voting for Trump. Just wait.
Yep. All right, so we're about out of time. 1 minute reaction to Joe Biden's acceptance speech. Let me get rid of this here. 1 minute reaction. Caleb, we'll start with you. What did you think of Joe Biden's acceptance speech?
I would say one word to describe it: boring. It was very, very, very boring. Now, at least he wasn't dead. At least he was alive. At least he actually was moving his mouth and everything, because usually he's just sitting there kind of looking out into space, kind of just not even alive. At least he was talking. But he was very boring. He was, he was slow. Like Donald Trump says, sleepy Joe Biden. I mean, he was doing a little bit better than usual. I got to be honest. He was doing a bit better than usual. But this is because he was reading. He was reading from a teleprompter. He wasn't even saying, anything from his heart. It wasn't even just coming right out. I bet you anything he practiced that a lot, and they really prepped him up for it. I can't even imagine when he's debating President Trump, when he's on stage debating President Trump. They're going to still prep him up, but it's not going to be the same. He is going to be a mess. So, it wasn't exactly a mess. I got to be honest. It really wasn't, but it wasn't great. It wasn't really lively. He was very, very boring. And I don't think the American people related to it. I don't think he really got to the American people like President Trump usually does. When he goes out there and speaks, the American people really stand by him. They really like it. But Joe Biden, I don't think he did that. I think it was a little underwhelming.
Yeah. And one of the things I was doing is during his acceptance speech, it was so boring. I just got on my phone, started looking at conservative memes and stuff, and I found that more entertaining than watching Joe Biden give his acceptance speech.
I would agree.
It was hilarious. Joseph, your thoughts?
I would say it's just words. The man has been in politics for 50 years now. He was in the Senate. He was vice president. He's been on the wrong end of literally every policy issue for his entire career. He was for the Iraq war. He didn't want to go in and kill bin Laden. He thought it was too risky. You have to give props to President Obama, who in his own way is a total failure, but at least President Obama was right on that. Biden was wrong on that. So Biden is not someone who's been successful in his life in politics. He's not a steady hand. Clearly, there's cognitive issues, but that's the least of his problems. He's been someone who's not successful his entire career, and there's no reason to think now, when he's a loser who happens to be past prime, that he'll be victorious for the country.
Yeah, you're so right on that. Carlos, your thoughts?
I think Biden's speech was strategic, but it was still boring. And the reason I say strategic is because if you're that candidate who's running against President Trump, you're going to want to use, of course, all the negative, things that you can get. He mentioned unemployment, the COVID. They mentioned a lot of COVID. Now, is it idiotic? Of course it is idiotic. But knowing how their base is, they're very emotional. They hate Trump. It's all hate Trump. So strategically speaking, it was well done. Now, was it entertaining? Absolutely not. It's pretty boring. I didn't watch the whole thing. I bet you a lot of people didn't even watch the whole thing. He does not have that enthusiasm like President Trump does. And as long as President Trump has that enthusiasm, no matter how much strategy they do, no matter what they say, Biden's going to struggle and he's going to lose. And he needs to lose. And Trump, he has that momentum. He has a lot of people who actually do support him. And he just needs to make sure that they are happy and satisfied with him and that he does not cave to the left. And by what I mean cave to the left is basically, start saying, oh, we're going to support universal health care or something. But of course, you never know. So overall, Biden's speech was strategic but boring. And I mean really boring.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more, Carlos. Honestly, it was, even though it was strategic and even though they're trying really hard, it's honestly, you need to be entertaining. You need to be lively. You need to be entertaining. Has that. President Trump is the king of energy, the king of being entertaining. No one does it better than him. Nobody.
I gotta agree with you on that, Caleb. He is the king of entertainment. Thankfully, though, we've got a much more entertaining convention coming up next week, the Republican National Convention. That is going to be so exciting to watch. One of the more exciting things that I got this week in my news feed, Nick Sandmann is going to be speaking. I was excited to see that. How many of you are excited to see Nick Sandmann speak?
I am excited. I think he deserves that spot because he was literally slandered by Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, and all those, MSM organizations, and he really deserves it, and that's gonna be entertaining and also fun. So
yeah, it will be fun. It's like one of us being up there. A young person finally. The Republican Party is finally reaching out to the young people, and the young people are responding in positive ways, like all of you guys have. So thank you guys for being a part. Go ahead, Caleb.
And who was also going to be awesome? You know who's also going to be awesome? The St. Louis couple. The couple up there. They're going to be speaking. That's going to be interesting. I'm excited for that as well. There's going to be a lot of good speakers. There's going to be really a great lineup. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Plus the king himself in comedy, Donald Trump. Well, not just comedy, but I mean the king and making America great again. All right, so we're going to get ready to go. Thank you guys for joining us. Caleb, thank you for joining us from Florida, Joseph from New York, and Carlos from Texas. This has been a great evening. Have a great night, guys.
Right.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
From 2020.
Oh, yeah. We're going to keep this great country greater than it's ever been.
That's right. All right, have a good evening, guys. And we'll see each and every one of you Forever Patriots later. Have a great evening, y'all.